So you were talking about how knowing God as your Father has sort of released fear, released anxiety and insecurity. Recently, you might have heard me talk about this week, but in October, me and Johnny's dad died and had a sudden heart attack. I just wondered if you could, how you've known God as Father through this time, and yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's funny about the loss of someone of a father figure, is it gives you the chance to reflect on who that person was and what it means for you to have a father. And so in this season, I have both needed to know the God who is the father to the fatherless more than I have done in my life, but I've also had time to reflect on what it was that made, what Dad showed me about God being your father, what that might mean. And so, and so just a couple of reflections on that. He was a man who we never had to prove ourselves to be loved. We never had to do anything to be loved. He saw us and he delighted in us. So when Connor ran races, and Connor is quite fast, and particularly at the age of about 11, 12, Connor was quite fast. He's kind of slowed down since. But when Connor was doing his races at 12, Dad would absolutely delight in it. And then when I was running slower, he wouldn't take the mick out of me. He wouldn't say, "You're not good enough. Why are you not as good as your brother?" He would say, he would push us on. He would pull us on. He would encourage me through the stitch. And the same was true in music. Dad was a fantastic musician. He had a diploma on the organ. He taught music at schools, and I was in year 7. I was the third percussionist in the orchestra, and that is not the most high responsibility role. In some shows, that just meant playing the triangle, but in this particular one, it meant that I had a 182 bar rest in the 200 bar piece. So you sat there, it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 180, 1, 2, 3, and then I had hit these bells for 6 bars. But Dad came to the concert and he didn't say, "You are not good enough." He didn't say, what was that? "You haven't reached my high standards." He said, "I love you." He said, "Well done. You bashed those bells excellently." He did the same thing after I failed my 3rd driving test. And I think there's something, for me, what the love of my father, the thing that was most special about it was that he loved us unconditionally. And his story that he loved in the Bible is the story of the prodigal son, which says where the son has decided he doesn't want God. He doesn't want him. But then he's in the dirt. He realizes he needs the Lord, and so he goes back to him. And I think a lot of us end up in this place where we go back to God, but we're like, you can't love me anymore. You wouldn't love me anymore. And he goes back to him, and he is met by this amazing embrace of a true father, which says, where the father goes, "I love you so much, my son." And he puts his finest clothes on him, on this guy who's been feeding pigs, and he kills the fattened calf. And this is the son who's screwed up, who's messed up. And that's the God, that was the love that Dad showed us. It was the love of God that he knew, and it's the love that Christianity offers. And so for me, there's something about just knowing that you were so loved that that's made a huge difference. And that doesn't make what we're going through easy. It doesn't make it easy to lose your dad when he's 57. It doesn't make it easy for me when I've got my mum, because I'm living at home on my own with mum at the moment, when mum's in bits. it doesn't make it easy. I don't want to be glib about that. I don't want to pretend that it is. But I am so grateful for the way that he modelled what a good father is, and therefore provided a little glimpse of how good it would be if the Christian offer of God as your personal father who delights in you and loves you is true.
Amazing, thank you. And in terms of Dad's death and the aftermath, with our whole family, I think we have known a hope, and Owen's going to talk in a minute about the resurrection of Jesus, and I think we've had a hope of something eternal and of a new life. And I wondered if you could just talk maybe briefly about the Thanksgiving service and just maybe, I guess, the unique hope that you think Christianity offers in terms of new life and a hope that lasts beyond death.
Yeah, I will answer that question. But I might answer one question first, because I think that there may be... Yeah, before I answer that question, I think that one of the other things that death does for us is it hits a lot of our deepest fears, and it's something that in our society where we, like, let's be honest, we've kind of shoved old people into care homes, and we dehumanize them, and a lot of them have dementia, and so by the time they die, we're kind of like ready. We don't feel it. We've kind of disconnected from things, and so for a lot of you, if you've been through something like this, the suffering that you went through will be one of your big barriers from engaging with God, and you'll be going, how could God let that happen? And there've been points in the last few weeks when I've said, how could God let that happen? How can I trust him anymore? And I think I can't give you an easy answer to that question. I can't give you an easy answer to why there is the suffering that I see in my work and that we do go through as individuals. But I do know that and this is where we come to what you were saying, Connor, that there is no better hope in the face of death than the possibility that one day you will be reunited, and that one day every tear will be wiped away, and that one day God himself has made a way that we do not have to fear death. And we don't know why this has happened, but we have known God with us in it. And I am clinging on to that hope. I'm clinging on to the hope that we worship. That the thing that Christianity says, and again, some of you won't believe it's true, but all I want to do is just to express how glorious it is if it is. And the thing that Christianity says to death, it looks it in the face and it says, death, where is your sting? Death, where is your victory? And we had this Thanksgiving service for Dad's life, and it was one of the most joyful days in some ways of our life, because you had this little glimpse of heaven, you had this little glimpse of, and we sang some of these amazing hymns that engaged with this stuff, and there's that final verse of Amazing Grace, which I can't quite remember.
We've been there 10,000 years.
Yeah, when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as a sun, that we've no less days to seek God's face than when we first begun. And the idea that actually this small, short, temporary moment is one that will pass away. And it might pass away sooner than you think. It might not do. You might have your 90 years and then end up in a care home. Or you might be like Dad and have a heart attack out on a run. But we don't have to fear death, because there is freedom from that fear. And that is the most wonderful thing.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Johnny. If we give Johnny a big round of applause for sharing.